Hi, my name is Zaid.
And I'm Lindsay, and we're the Abouds. So we are currently in Uganda. We have actually, we've been coming back and forth to Uganda for the last 4 years. We first came in 2014 just to do a short volunteer stint, just the two of us. And then while we were here, we met a woman, we were involved in a community, and so we decided that the best way for us to really be able to help the community would be for us to start an NGO. So 2016, it was finalized. It's called Bridging Villages. And also that time was when I was finalizing and defending my doctoral thesis in medical microbiology in July of 2016. So we decided to uproot everything and to come to Uganda in the summer of 2016. Thinking we'd be here for about a year to establish the NGO. We had our house rented in Winnipeg for a little bit of extra income, and we had sort of enough money put aside for a year. Well, within our first couple months of being here, we met two children in an orphanage. We didn't come here to work in orphanages, but because we were here for an extended period of time, we sort of started spending once a week. We would go to the one of the baby homes, and just sort of we felt like we could at least spend some time with the kids. And the first child we met walking in that door was Malika. She attached herself to Zaid pretty quickly, and Zaid attached himself to her pretty quickly. And she actually is a little girl that didn't have any hands. She was born with a bilateral upper limb difference, is a technical term. And so we thought right away that we would want to advocate for her and try to help her get into a family. We wanted to try to find her biological family or find a Ugandan family that would be willing to adopt her, because we knew that would be the best thing for her. And then about a month later, while I was in the orphanage actually getting something from Malika, I noticed a baby screaming. He was the only one left in the orphanage. Everyone else was outside playing. And that was our introduction to a little boy named Abel, who had hydrocephalus, but was being treated for malnutrition. And so we sort of also started advocating for him, just really pushing more for medical care for him than anything else, because he wasn't being treated for hydrocephalus, and it's very dangerous if gone untreated. So we sort of started pushing for him to get his medical care. Long story short, both children ended up, there was no biological family identified for either one. Abel was abandoned when he was very young, when he was very sick, and Malika's family didn't want to adopt or didn't want to bring her home because they believed she was cursed. Both her parents no one could find her parents, but her biological family believed that she was cursed because she didn't have hands, so they didn't want to take care of her. So, and because both of them had medical needs, there was no adoptive family that was Ugandan that was willing to take them. So what we thought was going to happen just for us to be advocating for these children ended up turning into an adoption. So Zaid and I, adoption was something that we'd always talked about as how we would expand our family. We didn't come to Uganda with that intention, but it became pretty clear pretty quickly that these children were meant to be in our family. And so we had to change our plan a little bit. So instead of having our 1-year plan in Uganda, because of the added expenses for adoption, we realized we had to change that plan. And Zaid, instead of being here for the full year with me, was going to go back to Canada. The reason we decided for him to go back is because he has extensive experience in hospitality industry, which are jobs that were going to be perfect for him to be able to work, but still be able to come back and forth to Uganda. If he was working in his field, which is pharmacology, he has his master's in pharmacology and therapeutics, he wouldn't have that flexibility to be able to come back and forth to see the kids and me, and for for everything that was needed for the adoption. So we decided for him to go back, and so Zaid traveled back to Canada beginning of January 2017 to begin working.
Yeah. Also, before starting the adoption here, we needed to make sure that what we need from Canada is kind of going along with what Uganda wants. So I went back home to get a lot of paperwork that was required for the court, and also ask about how are we going to do this, because we're not adopting through an agency. We're here adopting from the state of Uganda. Manitoba government said there's really nothing that they can do. It's an international adoption. So basically they just wanted me to give them all the documentation after we adopted them in order for them to go through it. So that left the federal government in order for them to come to Canada. I contacted the federal government, and they said, well, there are two parts that I need to go through. Part one, which is basically to approve us to adopt from international, and also to make sure that we're both, or at least one of us, is a Canadian citizen. That was done. And then part two, which is
because we're both Canadian citizens,
right? And part two, which is the citizenship for the adopted children, that cannot be started until the adoption is finalized. Now, I was told by an immigration officer, I suppose, that when part one is done, while you process in part two, you can simply apply for a visitor's visa. We get you guys out of Uganda to Canada, while you're waiting for part two, which is about 6 to 8 months.
Because the province said that they didn't really need anything. The federal government said all they needed was part one done before we adopted. So really there was nothing on the Canadian side for us to do. It was just to satisfy everything that Uganda needed in order to release the children to us. Because there's a 1-year foster period in Uganda. In 2017, both the kids were released to us to start the 1-year foster period. And so during that time then, there really wasn't much happening with terms of the government. I mean, their part one citizenship was processed, and so it was being processed, and it was approved, and that was really all we needed from Canada's side. And so then in April of 2018, we had our adoption court. And so we actually went to the court with the kids. Zaid came back for that, and then in May of and a month later, basically, we had our ruling. So you don't get the ruling the same day. So Zaid came back again for that. And so that was sort of a critical time for us because everything was sort of ending when it came to contracts. So we had planned everything. I had an NGO visa that would last until May. We had people staying in our house in Canada until June, I believe.
Of 2018.
2018. And then our contract for our rental unit, or our rental house in Uganda ended as well in June. And so we sort of had everything lined up that once the adoptions were finalized, there wouldn't be much time transition between ending everything and us all being home. And so Zaid came in May 15th, he traveled back to Canada. May 20th, I got an extension on my visa here in Uganda, which was a 3-month extension, on the basis that I was waiting for immigration for Canada. That's what I told them, because that's all we were waiting for. We had all the documents from Uganda, so the adoption order, the adoption ruling, adoption certificates, birth certificates, everything, passports for the kids, everything was ready. We just needed the Canadian visa. So that was my reason for extending. So I got a 3-month extension, which I thought was going to be more than enough time. And then I applied for visitors' visas for the kids. And we did that through paper, and the visa office, the Canadian visa office in Uganda, automatically sends everything to Tanzania, the Dar es Salaam embassy, because we only have a consulate in Uganda, and they don't process visa applications or citizenship or anything. So it was all sent to Dar es Salaam. And so we were told online, it said 21 days processing time. We were told it might take a little longer than that because it's an adoption. Sometimes adoption cases take a little longer to process than just a regular travel document, but that it wouldn't be that much longer. So we thought about a month. We were thinking about a month is how long it would take for the visas, and that's kind of what we've been told. So then our contract ended in our house, and the shortest time we could renew was 6 months. And we thought that was silly since we didn't have enough. We were trying to save money since our tenants moved out in Canada, so we had lost almost $1,700 a month that we were getting from the house, that now Zaid was going to have to be trying to work to make up to pay bills in Canada and in Uganda. So he's working 110 hours a week, 4 different jobs, to try to make it work. But we thought it's only going to be a short time because I'm going to be coming back to Canada soon. We'll both be working. It'll be fine. And if we're both working in our fields, we'd be more than fine financially.
Of course.
Unfortunately, that's not really what happened. We moved into a sort of a really short-term house here in Uganda. The kids and I moved to a place in a different part of Uganda. We had a friend with an empty apartment. We basically just brought a mattress and toys and clothes. That's really all we moved in with. And we stayed there for a month while they were out of town before they officially moved in. Well, at the end of the first month, we hadn't heard anything. So then I started moving to Airbnbs because, again, they were sort of saying it should happen quickly. It should be happening soon. The visas should be coming through. So we went to our first Airbnb for 2 weeks. And then nothing happened. And the Airbnb was booked, so I had to move again. I ended up moving 4 times, and for the length of 3 months, and nothing happened. And so at the end of 3 months, then so
after the 21-day passed, now I'm in Canada during that time. I've contacted immigration. I've tried to call Dar es Salaam. They refused to talk to me. We sent emails, nothing back. After 3 months, we got a rejection letter.
The reasons for their rejection was because they didn't believe that there was ample proof that children would leave the country should their visas expire before citizenship is granted. So we have at that time a 2- and a 3-year-old child, and that was the reason given for both of them. And then our son also was said that they wanted to process citizenship first before approving visas.
So they said, well, we want a letter from your province, a letter of no objection to the adoption. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So I've contacted
Which is what we went to them for in
Right.
January 2017,
Right.
when we went to the province asking, what will we need from you? And we're told nothing. That was the time that we should have got that letter.
So my MLA was working with Ottawa closely and told me to tell Lindsay if she can extend for at least just 2 months. That was in August. Just 2 months. It's just technicality. We need to reapply. As soon as we reapply, they're going to snatch it and they will deal with it from Ottawa. We don't need to submit it anywhere. They can even, his exact words were, hopefully the plan is to issue the visa or travel permit straight from Ottawa, which is something we never even thought possible. So I was like, fine. We reapplied. We submitted everything. They received all the documentation September 12th.
And so when the government of Canada from Ottawa pulled it out, said they were going to deal with it directly, they didn't. They just sent it to another embassy, and they sent it to a new embassy, which means that they had to start from square one again instead of sending it to the embassy that had already dealt with the case the first time and wanted us to just adjust a couple of things. So we adjusted those things, but now it's sent to a new embassy, and so now it's taking longer again. So now we're at a point where the kids and I have moved 7 times total to different Airbnbs around Uganda. It's incredibly hard for us because we still have no idea when we're going to get out of here because they just keep saying, call back next week, call next week. Our MP's office is calling twice a week. Yeah. Everyone's just ignoring him.
For the last month.
No one's giving him answers. Yeah. From Ottawa or from Nairobi, everyone's just saying, oh, it's top of the pile, it's priority. It was supposed to be expedited, according to Ottawa. And Nairobi is 18 days processing. If you apply from Uganda, it's supposed to be 28. Yeah. We've passed both of those timelines.
And Nairobi told our MP, Nairobi's office contacted our MP and they said, we received the note, we are expediting it, it's on top of the file, and there's a priority label on it.
But that was a month ago, and if we're expediting, it shouldn't be taking longer than what normal visas should be taking. There is no reason these visas should be denied. Our government, our MP, even the immigration, were surprised they were denied the first time. And so there's no reason. We've satisfied every requirement they could need. We've proven without a shadow of a doubt the adoptions are ethical and legal and binding, and that there's nothing fishy about them. We've provided every piece of documentation we could to them. There's nothing to show that we can't provide for them, that we're taking responsibility for them, and there's no one in Uganda, biological family or otherwise, that's going to come looking for them. We've proven all of that. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be issuing these visas.
One last point when it comes to the immigration thing. We applied for the children's Part 2 for the citizenship in May when we applied for the visas. And they said, well, we need that letter of no objection that we said earlier in order to start that adoption, the citizenship application. That's nowhere in the checklist of document that we needed on the website. So we didn't know. It was like, it's fine. We have it. We'll send it. No problem.
In September, we sent it.
We sent it in September. As of a few days ago, as I called just to see the process, like where we at in the process, they found out I found out that when we submitted to the Canadian government's office, they didn't really send it to the citizenship. So they've been sitting on it for the last 5 months, missing this one paper that the federal government has it. But no one said anything to us that, hey, we haven't received it yet. So we don't even know if they even started the process.
Well, and so it's only a 6 to 8 month process. We could be within 3 months of getting citizenship for them. But yet they could.
A problem.
And the scary thing is I'm now down to my last month again in visas. And we keep moving from house to house. Our son has, we think it's mild autism. If it's not autism, it's definitely a behavioral disorder of some sort. He doesn't adjust well to change at all. Every time we move, it's been incredibly hard for him. And then, of course, for all of us. I'm alone in a country where being a Caucasian parent with Ugandan children is not easy. People are very, very rude and very mean and aggressive sometimes. And so that's sort of a factor I have to deal with. Also, having children with special needs in Uganda brings up a whole issue, which is really hard. We don't have a vehicle, so we travel by public transport, which is often incredibly abusive and hard, so we don't move around a lot. But one of the biggest challenges for us is that Malika is school age now. She just turned 4, which is why Zaid's actually out here. She should be in school. She should be going to school and socializing with other kids, but it's really hard to do that when you're moving to a new place in Uganda every month. We've been getting job offers that we don't even know if we can accept them because deadlines are coming and going, and we're like, well, we don't know when we're coming home. And so, how do you accept job positions if you don't even know if you're going to be home this month, 5 months from now, 6 months, a year? We have no idea. And so he's working 4 part-time jobs where he could just be working 1 in his field and making the same amount of money. And so this is everything. We're just sort of living this transient life where the government's telling us something's going to change and nothing's changing. And weeks are going by and we keep waiting for answers and we're literally getting nowhere. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, our kids have never met our family. Our family can't really travel to Uganda for various reasons. But so they've never met our family. I have been home 2 weeks in the last 2 years. I'm by myself in Uganda.
I've seen my kids 27 days in the last year.
We made the decision to adopt, thinking that, okay, we're going to sacrifice basically a year apart from each other, that we'll be back and forth, but that then the adoption will be finalized, and then the Canadian government will issue visas. They'll help work through the rest of it with us. And now that's not what's happening. We're almost 2 years now into it, not 1 year past, 2 years, and we're still just sitting waiting and not being told anything. And it's like everyone's just saying, well, they gave you misinformation, or they shouldn't have told you. Well, that's great to say now after we literally planned everything based on what they told us when we called them.
Multiple times.
In August 2016 is when they were giving us these answers. And now they're saying that, well, that was wrong information. That's not really fair to us when we made decisions based on that information. And so now we're basically just sort of throwing up our careers and saying, hopefully we can land in our fields again one day, hopefully. And we also, like, I want to raise my children with my husband. The plan was not for me to be raising them alone in Uganda, away from my entire support network, no family, few friends. It's hard when you're moving around a country every month to sustain any friendships. So I have no support network with our 2 children, one with a physical difference and one with that needs a little bit of extra care just because of a behavioral disorder. And so, I mean, it's tough. And when he's here, it's fantastic. He helps, and it takes so much off of my shoulders. But it's overwhelming when I'm by myself. And to not know when that's going to end is incredibly frustrating. And it's heartbreaking for me to know that he's leaving tomorrow on the 15th of October. And we have no idea when he's going to see his kids again, or when he's going to be coming back, when I'm going to get that break again, when we're going to see our family. It's heartbreaking to know that it's just this, like, never-ending timeline that no one's willing to help us with. And so we're hoping that if enough people start calling their MPs, start sort of writing letters, writing emails, making phone calls, the Immigration Canada will be forced to act again and push the Nairobi embassy to act quickly, even within 10 days, to give an answer. Or issue
travel documents or travel permit from Ottawa.
Or issue travel permits. Because our children are now 2 and 4 years old. There's no risk of our children to Canada. Obviously, we can supply for them financially, emotionally, in every way we'll supply for them. There's no risk or drain on Canada. There's no reason for this to be taking so long. We are highly skilled. We are highly educated. We want to be working in our country. We don't want to have to go to another country, which is sort of what we're looking at now. If we can't get home and be together, we're going to go to another country so that at least we can be as a family, which we don't want to do. But at the same point, how many months should we be expected to wait for Canada to figure out how to bring us home? And so we're just hoping for support. Any story that can come out of it, anyone who can back us. This is sort of our plea to just get our family together and get us home. I would love to spend Christmas at home with my kids, and for them to meet their grandparents and their aunts and uncles and cousins, and everyone's so excited to meet them, and I would love to be able to spend Christmas at home with them. So anything you can do to help us get there would be so great.
And last but not least, Malika,
come here.
Abel, come here.
Abel, come
here.
And these are the troublemakers. Come here, sweetie. Can you say hi?
What is your name?
Hi.
What is your name?
Malika.
What's your name?
Abel.
Oh.
Abel.
And how old are you?
3.
No, how old are you?
2.
2 years old.
How old are you?
4 years old.
4 years
4 years old. Wow, you're a big girl. Okay, you want to say hi?
Thank you? Can you say thank you for helping us?
Thank you for having us.
And we are hoping that there will soon be a follow-up story of us at the airport coming home to see our family, and you will see the 3 of us getting off an airplane. There will probably be a lot of tears from all of us for different reasons. Traveling for like 30 hours on an airplane, but we're really hoping to all be home soon. So thank you for any help. Thank you for any help you can offer us. Right? Say bye.
Bye. Bye.